Hey, so welcome back. Man, these Losi LMT monster trucks are so awesome, right, Dash?
But
Aren't they so much fun? Okay, so I really want, can you guys let me know in the comments, do I talk too much? Show too much stuff? What do you want to see? What can I change? I want to try to, do things a little bit better. So, if you can, just give us some feedback. Really appreciate it. But what we're going to show, it's raining. It's like it didn't really snow today, but there was a lot of hail. Was it snowing today?
Yeah.
It doesn't snow here. We're like in Los Angeles, man. And it's like we're below 1,000 feet. And it's pretty wild, right, Dash?
And I still think it's real snow.
I know. It was, and it's cold right now. It's cold in the garage.
I was eating a little bit of the snow.
You ate some of the snow today?
Yeah.
You know what, guys? I'll throw in a little clip, too, of the kids having a good time. What do you think, Dash?
I'm building a snowman.
What are you doing, Grace?
Snowman!
Just be careful, guys. It's slippery. Holy cow. It is still coming down. These monster trucks are so awesome. Look, we've had this son of a digger for over a year, been beating it. It is beyond upgraded. The grave digger doesn't have a lot of, it's pretty stock. We've just got it a little bit ago. These boys love playing with them. They're so much fun. They can do fun little tricks. They got plenty of power.
And we only focus on it.
Oh, we've broken son of a digger. I don't know how many times. And I'll go through that. So I want to show you some of the stuff that we've done with these things. Because I've had, like I said, I've had it for a while. Done a lot of different upgrades. Certain things that I would do. Certain things I would not do again.
Is this the new Servo, Dad?
That is not. But that's going to be one of the things that we're going to show everybody. I want to show you, like, what we're going to do to Gravedigger is what I think a lot of people should probably do. And then not go beyond that, unless you really need to. So, it is, right? So,
it's going to be really good.
This little guy, I think, is going to help me. Gage, he'll probably pop back out here, too. He was inside, too. Like I said, it's pretty cold.
And there's still got a new one that they use.
We got a lot of cool little stuff. So I want to share you what I think are some of the best upgrades for these Losi LMTs. Things that you should do, shouldn't do, because they're not the cheapest. Some of the upgrades are not the cheapest. Some of the upgrades that a lot of people say are awesome, I don't think work. And then some other ones do work. So
we gotta get on the nitro video.
Well, yeah, we got to do another nitro video because that's been a challenge. Woo. So let's get into it, Dash, okay?
Okay.
Man, check these awesome beasts out. So this is what's nice about having two of these. One fully crazy upgraded, one pretty much stock. You got a grave digger, you got a son of a digger, we got a ding dong. I took the front tires off just so I could walk you through a few things, all right? So.
And we're not going to take these off right now.
Not right now. But, so I want to, just show you what we've done to this son of a digger. I mean, it's been just beat. I mean, it's fully shoe goo, drywall taped, and it's had a rough time. So, this thing has a No Superior Designs RS800 V2 servo. It is a really nice servo. It is direct powered. So where we've had most of our problems is in the steering and steering linkage and all that other stuff. And I think that's where you'd see a lot of the other problems on these things. So why is there a box of cornflakes on Gravedigger? Because you're a goofball? Man, these guys always doing something.
Subscribers when I put this on.
Okay. So, for sure. First thing on these Losi LMTs, they need a servo upgrade. And we're going to do that on the... Yeah, Gravedigger does, because I want to show you something.
Can I hold Gravedigger's box?
If I rock this, you can see this thing moving back and forth. Let me see if I can do that again. I mean, the shaft on this servo is already kaput.
Because I broke it.
You didn't break it. You just kind of ran them into something. But they have nothing in the front to protect them, right?
And I cut the body. And I don't really want to get this all scratched up like
It's going to happen. We're going to buy a new body for Son of a Digger eventually.
And Digger?
But I'll tell you, when we first had the Son of a Digger, I ran him into something, and the factory servo, it exploded. I mean,
Like,
it blew apart into pieces, right, Dash? I mean, it was bad. And I was not expecting to have to upgrade it right then and there. So, and I've had a bunch of different servo saver setups, steering linkage setups, all this other stuff. And I'll tell you why I do what I do. And, you can make the decision you want to make. So, we broke an axle shaft. So this has trio axles, front and rear. This has the trio center diff, trio sway bars, which I think are an awesome upgrade over the stock. This, I went with a little bit stiffer spring in the front. You've got to run limit straps on these things, because what happens is,
and these are the lead ones.
as the shocks fully extend and everything droops out of the suspension, it rips the lower...
and they've got to get this.
Yeah, it rips...
Shocks stripping.
Yeah, it rips the lower shock part of it out of the shaft. So when you do the limit straps, it doesn't let it fully extend too far and rip it out. So I've actually done a couple different limit strap setups. These are
the lead ones?
These are 110 millimeter, I think. These are 108 millimeter.
And whoa,
just mounted slightly different.
Do you see that?
So, they're pretty awesome, though. You got to do it. And there's a bunch of different videos on how to do it. I mean, if you can just see, I just have a through bolt going through here. And these are strapped here, and then they strap up at the top, with a bolt and a nylock nut. Now, this side, this side I actually have, these are the 108 millimeter, and they actually go in between down there, but they don't take up the full space. So you use a little bit of fuel tubing, in between to kind of take up the gap. And then up here, you can use a 4 millimeter bolt with a nylock nut, and it fits in that hole pretty good. I actually like this setup a little bit better. I like how the straps are, parallel with the shock. I think it works a little better. This works too. I mean, nothing wrong with it. Super simple. You can see drops out. It works. It's, so you don't have to do any of the fuel tubing stuff, but I think these kind of look a little bit cooler on the Son of a Digger. So either way, like I said, I'll put links in the description for the limit strap setup, and I'll see if I can do a little backwards. I'll pull it off, show you kind of what I did on the Son of a Digger too. But like I said, biggest thing is, like, when you start putting aluminum stuff all over these things, you start moving the breakage points in different areas, right? This thing's totally stock, right? Stock axles, stock everything right now, right?
And they work just the same as the way on my truck.
Right. So where you end up having issues is, you do the servo, right? If you do a servo saver, I've done a trio servo saver before. I'm not a big fan of the trio servo saver, and I'll tell you why. This nut is just like the stock one, and what happens over time is this nut starts to back off, and then it gets loose, and the spring tension gets less, right? So it's a really nice piece. The one that I like, if you're going to go with this type of servo saver, the hot racing one, and I've used it in the past. The only thing was I destroyed it, and I'll tell you why I destroyed it. What they do is, it's just like this, but on this part of the nut on the spring, they have a set screw to tighten it and to not let it back off, which is super cool. So not only does it has a set screw here, and then it also has a set screw on the nut. The hot racing one is super cool. I personally, this is the Servo AF servo saver that I run on the Son of a Digger. I run it with a stock steering setup completely. I run stock steering knuckles, all that stuff, because many times this is a freestyle servo saver, and there's always break here because honestly, the springs too soft. The spring on that is too soft. The spring setup on the Servo AF one is a little bit stiffer, works really well. You just put a standard, type, aluminum servo arm on there. And then you got to run a little bit longer bolt over here too, right? But it puts the breakage point on the knuckle piece. So as you can see, we broke this knuckle on Son of a Digger. That's where it always breaks, right? I have Trio steering knuckles. Whenever I've done that, I end up breaking, servo savers. You end up, what gets really bad is you end up putting so much pressure on it and it blows through the spring on the servo saver, and then it twists the output shaft on the servo. I have replaced the output shaft on this servo 3 times. I put a Reefs Raw 500 in here, destroyed it. So the best thing to do is to run the plastic steering, setup with the plastic knuckles. Do not go to an aluminum knuckle. Do not go to an aluminum steering, setup, because I had the Trio setup on it, and all it does is destroy everything. I mean, it'll just blow the servo out every single time. If you beat on these things hard enough, it will blow them out. So I always keep all this stock. What I do though too is these things are known for having there's a Kingpin right here. So it's a pin and it is held in by this little set screw that's right in there, right? What happens is these get stripped out, especially the ones on the bottom, they fall out all the time. So cool upgrade is it's a Traxxas part. So let me see if I can reach over here. What I have on here on this Son of a Digger is those pins just slide in and out, right? These actually thread in, and you got to trim them down and kind of take your time to trim and make sure they're the right length. But that pin just sits in there, right? And then this screws into the plastic. It won't back out. So this thing just slides in and out, right? You get rid of that thing, put one of these Traxxas parts. I'll link this in the description before. This is a pretty well-known upgrade, if you're keeping the stock, type setup, which I think you need to do on these things for them to last and not destroy servos. So, I personally, my favorite setup, stock steering, Servo AF servo saver. Either this is a ProTech arm. I have this is a Losi. I forget which one it is, but this is just a Losi arm, and this one steps out a little bit, which I think will give it a little bit better angle over here. The only thing is you got to drill out the hole here for a 3mm bolt. No big deal. So we're actually going to do this setup on the Son of a Digger. We're going to combine it with a Perfect Pass Monster servo. This is one of Raz Schifrin's servos. These things are super, super awesome. Used them in a couple other things. So never tried it out on the monster truck. Figured, hey, we're going to try it out here. I try a lot of different servos out. I use a lot of AGF, No Superior Designs. Used that before. Used the Reefs Raw 500. I really like the Raw 500, but the Raw 500 had the same problem that this did. You put up too much aluminum, it just twists the output shaft. So, and that wasn't the servo's fault. It's purely just having too much aluminum and just, bashing it. So, the must do things, I think, on these Losi LMTs, you got to do, I would do a servo. I would do limit straps. And then honestly, I'd keep everything else the same. I like, choose your servo saver. I would say either the Servo AF setup or a hot racing servo saver, which is very similar to the Trio one, but a little bit nicer, I think. And then I think you're good. I mean, I think you can get away with a lot of stuff. If you end up breaking an axle, go with a Trio axle. These are Trio axles on here, full billet, super nice. I've got the full center diff, full center, all that stuff. I don't think you need any of it. It adds a lot of extra weight. And when you do all that, I run the stock arms, right? Because you got to have a plastic pivot somewhere, Because like if you run a full aluminum arm here, man, now you're going to start breaking aluminum pieces or breaking the ears off on the differential and all that other stuff. I would say if you have the money, do the trio sway bars. If not, keep the stock sway bars. They're okay. They tend to bend every once in a while. No big deal. The other thing is I've done full trio cross braces all the way through this thing. There's a bunch, right? I think the only ones that need to be changed is this one, the front, this front specific one, that plastic one, and there's one identical in the rear. Change those two out to the aluminum. And then the other thing is I like to widen the truck just a little bit. So I do a 5mm. This is the 5mm hub spacer. 5mm hub spacer. You don't have to use a trio. And I'll show you. All it does is go inside the wheel. So normally these are plastic, that hub piece. These are a billet aluminum one, so a little bit stronger. You just unscrew them and pop them back in. I think they work great. Widens the truck just a little bit to make a 10 and a 15. I think that's too wide and it takes away the scaleness of it. Going to just a 5mm, a little bit wider, I think is the way to go. That's me personal. So I have done the Bauhaus low CG battery mount in this thing. I love it. The battery mount stock on these things, which is fine too, it's up a little bit higher. It has a strap that goes this way and it latches down here. It's rubber, huge pain. All I did was I took a normal strap. I cut some holes right here, in the plastic mount and just put a strap in, because if you don't do that, it's so hard to get the batteries mounted and strapped in, and it's a pain. I hate it. That's one biggest gripe on this whole thing is how the battery mount's done. But honestly, like I said, limit straps, servo, nice servo arm, leave the rest of it alone. Leave the rest of it alone. It'll have a good time. If you end up breaking a diff, replace it. Either replace it or use a trio one. I don't think you need the center setup. I really wouldn't waste my time. It's a lot of work, kind of a pain. If you're gonna like totally just be beating it, maybe, but then you got to still use the stock arms with a plastic end, because tons of times, you hit it hard. I would rather break a plastic end off, be able to switch it out real quick, than having to, if you break an aluminum piece, I mean, you're buying a whole new thing. And I actually had one of these C-hubs in the back. The bolt snapped on it. And so I've got a trio axle here that is no good. I mean, you can see there's a screw stuck in one end. One of the other ones is all drilled out. I tried to drill it out. It's just, this thing's worthless. I mean, it's a piece of junk. I'm just keeping, the bearings and some of the other stuff as spares. But other than that, I mean, this thing's a paperweight now. I could probably weld that up and re-drill it out and stuff eventually, but I'm just not going to take my time right now. So it's a lot of work. So, like I said, there's a lot of cool things you can do on these things. I don't think you need to do all the crazy stuff that everybody says to go do. Just do a few little things and it'll last. Limit straps, a servo, and then go have fun. Limit straps, a servo, and have fun. Because then you won't break the shocks all the time. And the servo just helps it out, because these servos they're junk from, original. So we're going to go, I'm going to get these things upgraded real quick. I got to fix this guy real quick, fix the end. And then I'm going to throw the new servo on Gravedigger. And then it's time to go watch the boys have fun with them. They've got a nice little, I think they're going to do a cool little Monster Jam show for you guys. All right. So stay tuned. Hey, so I'm going to try not to talk too much, but look, you can see these front braces get just beat. And I've snapped like 3 of the stock ones. Are all plastic, right? And I actually broke one so bad to where it bent the front chassis horn. And you can see where I actually had to hammer on this thing. I had to pull it all apart. There's a front section here, the middle section, and then a rear section on both sides, right? And they bolt together. I had to pull it apart and hammer that one. I had to hammer this one back straight. So, you know, like I said, I have all the braces everywhere, you know, all the trio ones on this one. I don't think it's needed. I think you just need the fronts. Get the front, and then there's a matching one in the back. Do that, solid. Oh, and the other thing I want to show you. So I pulled the Kingpin out. If you have an LMT, you know what I'm talking about. These things pop out all the time. So there's this screw here that goes and contacts this channel. These are always stripped out in the plastic. And what happens is they don't stay loose and these things just slide out, right? So it's just a pin, you know, it just sits there. Whereas this Traxxas piece is a pin and then it's also threaded. Now you gotta, you gotta cut down the end of the pin because you need to make it to the same length. You need to make it to the same length as the factory pin because you don't want it to go down too far. And then sometimes I run the washers because, and they're a little different on each one. I've done it on a couple different things. When it threads in, sometimes it goes too far and you can feel the steering knuckle bind up a little bit. If you need to, then you just throw a little washer on it, space it out just a little bit. But these threads, you know, thread into here and don't let it back out. And it's such a awesome thing. I wish they would have done that stock because I've lost, I don't know, 8 of these and driving myself crazy for the longest time. Then I saw somebody, you know, oh, you got to do the Traxxas pin, you know, mod. I was like, what? And then, so Traxxas pin mods, man, they're awesome. You just screw them in. You can actually leave these set screws out. I run them back in, but super sweet. So we're going to do that. We're going to do the pins. I've already got the limit straps front and rear, and then we're going to change out the servo. Like I said, I wonder if I can show it to you. Can you see it now? I mean, it's the shaft. I mean, this thing's just rocking back and forth. I mean, it's bad. And I screwed the nut back. I mean, it's just bad. So, you know, and when you do this Servo AF setup, oh man, let's see if I can drop it. When you do this one, you know, this setup, you need to take this steering arm and flip it. So if you look, it's flipped and you can see, you know, where the normal steering mounts here, but it's symmetrical side to side still, right? You just flip it over, just take this, flop it. This comes over here, then you run, I think it's a 30 or 35 millimeter long, you know, bolt through it. Never had a problem. I mean, I don't break any of these ends ever. The only thing I end up breaking and it usually ends up breaking just this knuckle. I mean, I'll show you what happens is it just snaps that, cracks that in half. You know, these things, a set, you get a whole set of these, you know, front steer, you know, spindle set. It's like $10. I got a couple spares. I'd rather break those than break servos. Servos are no fun to have to pull apart, replace the, you know, the output shaft. They're expensive, all that other stuff. Because if you're going to beat on them hard enough, I mean, you can, like I said, the freestyle one, you end up breaking these end links all the time. And I mean, it breaks really easy. And it's like, that's a pain in the butt. You know, this setup goes really far for a long time and you'll break, you know, a steering link, you know, a spindle, I don't know, after a long time. So I don't know if you've seen any of the Losi LMT competitions, but the guys running the freestyle stuff, they're always breaking these links. And I'm like, I'm not going to do that. And they break them really easy. This is a lot harder to break than this thing is. So that's why I do it. So, hey, I'm going to get this servo swapped out, get the steering all set up on the Gravedigger, son of a digger's all fixed, ready to go. And these boys are going to set up their little monster jam for you.